Welcome to the Glenn Beck program. Tonight, a special hour that I think is either going to make blood shoot out of your eyes or going to make you run right for Home Depot. Get the shovels, because you're going to need them. The government is trying to bury millions of businesses alive, and somebody has to help dig them out. Don't let Uncle Sam destroy our mom and pop shops. If you believe this country is great, but you'll be damned if you're going to let it murder your small business, it is time to bail out the small ones, not the big ones. Sit yourself down for a few minutes, pump up the volume, and come follow me. I'm a little sick of seeing GM, SEIU, Acorn, Citibank, and all the rest. I'm tired of all the big businesses. Hello, or should I say goodbye? This is kind of a funeral, I guess, today. We're holding kind of a wake, maybe, or an awakening for small business in America because it is being crushed, and the government has blood all over its hands. The Obama administration and both parties in Congress are forcing socialized medicine right down our throats. They are forcing unions to take over successful businesses and the hijacking of contracts of workers under the interestingly worded Employee Free Choice Act. They're raising your capital gains taxes. And when that frightening cap and trade bill passes, energy prices are going to skyrocket, not just at your home, but also at the small business. How are they going to be able to afford to pay their utility bills? Online, small businesses are some of the fastest growing ones out there. Joining me now is a man who knows all about the threats that they are facing. His name is Patrick Byrne. He's the CEO of one of the most successful online retailers out there, Overstock.com. Also in the studio audience, we have a few other people. We have James Murphy and Lindsay Pyron. They are both the president and vice presidents of a small business in Ohio called EST Analytical. It's a company that sells analytical instruments to the environmental testing labs. Oh, do I hate you guys? The environment, I mean, you're not like green, really, are you? Oh, boy. But they're here because they're also being crushed. Maureen O'Connor is an owner of a Center Sheet Metal. This is a business started up by her father in the Bronx, New York. She's here to talk about the new universal health care proposals and how it's going to affect her business. Everybody in the audience here is a small business owner. So let me start with Overstock.com, which my wife just got a package yesterday.
Think of the money she saved.
Yeah, that's right. Tell me about how your business is going to be affected here with what's going on.
Well, in general, just if we're talking about, for example, taxes, the common denominator is when you raise the cost of anything, people do less of it. And that includes if government raises the cost to businesses of starting up and employing people and hiring new people, they're going to do less of that.
Right.
That's not what we want as a country.
You're all small business owners. How many people are looking at the future and saying, "My gosh, I'm going to expand my business and hire a whole bunch of new people"? Two up here, three. Okay.
Trying.
You're trying. No, I'm saying I'd love to try as well. Is this the atmosphere that's going to do it? Are you going to hire them in here?
Well, there's a lot of political risk out there, but if you can get past it and get the capital, there are opportunities that are once in a lifetime.
That's great. Everybody else? Okay, so if you're watching from home and you'd like a job, that guy's going to be hired. The thing that I don't understand is when it comes to taxes, they really truly keep selling to people that, oh, well, these businesses, I mean, you're Overstock.com. You've got all this cash overstocked right there. And you'll just go, and you won't pass that on to the people.
No, and this is what they fundamentally miss. A tax is just the price that government charges for its services. And we are basically in a deal which says we'll give half our stuff, all of us collectively, half our stuff to the government in return for its services, in return for protecting us. Do we really think government is doing that good a job for the half of the stuff that it takes?
Yeah. No. Tell me a little bit about cap and trade. Because I think of Overstock.com, I don't think of cap and trade affecting you.
Well, I believe I like market-based solutions to pollution. I liked it since Ronald Reagan was talking about it 25 years ago. I don't think cap and trade is. I would support a carbon tax. Cap and trade.
You would support a carbon?
Simple carbon tax rather than, certainly cap and trade has some big disadvantages because you get all kinds of manipulation in the market, and it creates an opportunity for Wall Street just to suck more income, more wealth out of the state.
How many people here believe that the steps that we've taken for the stimulus, and remember, Stephen Moore from the Wall Street Journal is here, correct me if I'm wrong, 70% of all new jobs are created by small business, right?
Yep.
How many people here think the stimulus package will create new jobs? These are 70%. How many people think it will create new jobs?
Amazing. Nobody. What about cash for clunkers? There's no automobile.
Is there anybody that runs an automobile? Is there an automobile dealer here? No? I mean, I can't imagine how that is. That's just getting people, is it not, Stephen? Just getting people to go buy their cars now that they might have been thinking about
That's
6 months
the whole problem
ago.
with stimulus, Glenn, is you know, it's like injecting yourself with morphine and saying, I feel so much better now. And then when you come down from it, and that's the whole experience with stimulus. Feels pretty good right now, although we still have 9.5% unemployment. But, you know, does anybody really think when we have to pay these debts off 6 months from now, things are going to be better?
Yeah, no. Let me go to James and Lindsay. You guys are from Ohio, and employment is fantastic there.
Yeah.
Great
Low unemployment coupled with low interference from government. You guys have a fantastic state government there. That's sarcasm, by the way. Tell me is it an 11 or 11.5% now unemployment in Ohio?
11.5.
Okay. And you guys you make instruments for environmental instruments, right?
For laboratories, right?
So what are you measuring?
Organics.
Organics. Fascinating.
Primarily, yeah.
Okay, so, but you guys, here we are in a green atmosphere. You guys do you make instruments to measure environmental stuff, and yet you guys are having a hard time?
Oh, yeah.
Why?
Well, it's the EPA. It's EPA mandated technology, and there's not a lot of money going into that from the government. It all comes from government, either government or industry. Let's say Ford and GM have to test. The oil companies have to test. Well, Ford and GM don't have any money. The oil companies do what they have to do. So it's not a growth market. It's the growth is in China. Here in the U.S., it's a pretty flat market.
Okay.
We have the same problems any small business does, plus the people that we sell to are contract laboratories that are another small business, and they've got the same problems, and it just all rolls downhill.
Okay. So you guys, when the government makes regulations for these other people, then like an oil company, then you make the instrument so they can be in compliance.
Correct.
And you're having a hard time selling it to even those guys.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not a growth market, I would think, with the way the government is regulating, that people would be beating a path to your door.
No. I mean, one of our competitors, who's much larger than we are, by the way,
Right.
is down about 38% this year in their sales. We were down about 25%, but we managed to secure a large order from China and get some of our Yankee dollars back, and it kind of saved us more on an interim basis.
How is healthcare going to affect you guys as a small business?
Oh, it's a killer. I mean, we pay 60% right now. We're one of those small businesses that's under 50 people. Mm-hmm. We pay 60% of the healthcare cost. We think we have a good healthcare program for our employees, and it's going to go now from 60% to 72%. And on top of everything else that's happened with the tax increases in January, we're an S-corp, so we're one of those bad guys too. Mm-hmm. It's really going to hurt. It's going to make it very difficult.
I just had a meeting with my staff because I'm a small business owner. My company is called Mercury, and we're an entertainment company. We do all kinds of stuff, and I cover 100% healthcare. And we have the best that we could get for New York. Mm-hmm. This year, I think our healthcare went up 40%, and then the next year it was up like 47%. And they keep taking away options. This year, when we renewed, the healthcare provider came into my office and he said, "Are you really going to pick that?" And I said, well, yes, as long as I can. And he said, you are the last person in the state of New York that is covering your employees like this. And I said, well, I just had a meeting with my employees, and I said, I don't know how long I can do that, but we'll do it as long as we possibly can. But they're making it impossible. Does anybody else find it impossible? They make it impossible for you to do the right thing for your employees.
Yeah, we feel like if we keep the increase to 15 or 20%, that was a good year.
Yeah.
You know, and that's scary.
Let me go to Maureen. Now, Maureen, last year you have a sheet metal.
Sheet metal company.
And weren't you you provided the sheet metal for Yankee Stadium, did you not?
Yes, we did.
So you had to have a spectacular year last year.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Good for us, good for our employees.
Sure. Okay. How many people do you employ?
Right now?
Yeah.
We have 54.
Okay. And what is it exactly that you're having a hard time with?
Well, last year I had 125.
Yeah, but you were building Yankee Stadium.
But I'm supposed to build something else this year.
Right. Okay.
So we've had layoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So our revenues are down about 40%. Our payroll is down 40%. We tried to save the jobs using a shared work program with New York State, where all the employees gave up 1 day and they got 1 day's unemployment benefit. So they shared it. They all got paychecks then for 4 days a week. They saved on commuting for 1 day a week. Mm-hmm. So they could still pay their bills, fund their 401ks, pay their rent. But the next job didn't really come around yet, so we finally had to lay them off. So that's troubling to me because we tried very hard, at an expense to us, to keep people. You know, when you don't have the next piece of ductwork to hang, the guy, takes his time, which is understandable.
Right.
So we did that as long as we could.
Is anybody here, because again, I'm a small business owner, I just finished building my offices here in New York. We started last November. Because of unions, it took us that long to get everything done. Is anybody here concerned about card check?
Card check, absolutely.
What is your fear on card check?
Well, there's absolutely no way I could keep the doors open if they were to unionize our place. There's just no way. Couldn't do it.
Yes, go ahead.
I mean, my company, we have about 375 employees, and the majority of them are part-time, hourly type employees. And when you think about the possibility of, all of a sudden somebody comes in one day and puts 50% plus one cards on your desk, and you've got 100 days or 120 days to sign a union contract. And then if you don't get it done, you go to binding arbitration, and now, the labor department's going to tell you how much to pay a dishwasher.
Are you
You're
saying
done.
maybe the government isn't an honest broker, an honest mediator? So let me ask you this: what are the things that you see the government doing right now that you scream at the television and say, "Good God, don't they understand?" What? What is the thing that? Yes.
Healthcare, like you, I pay 100% for my employees. There's 8 of them who are part of my staff, and they don't pay any part of the premium whatsoever. It costs me right now $115,000 a year for those 8 staff members. The 8% penalty tax on their payroll would be $65,000. So it would save me $45,000, $50,000. I don't want to save that money at the expense of giving them universal government-controlled health care.
Right.
But if they're taxing me another 10 or 15% because I'm the evil subchapter S, they're going to tax me into negative cash flow. I pay the taxes on the profits when they're recognized, not when I collect the money, which could be 6 or 7 months after I've paid Uncle Sam. So they're going to force me to make a tough choice. Where am I going to get the money to pay the extra taxes? At the expense of putting I don't want to do that. And that's very I yell about that. I want my employees to keep what they have, their doctors, the tests they want when the doctor says to get them. Not if the government says you might need the test or you might not need the test.
America, I want you to, the average person makes $45,000 a year. Our average congressman makes $173,000 a year. And they have great health care. They have great perks. In fact, I don't know if you heard this, but they just bought 3 new Gulfstreams G550s, which, of course, businesses like General Motors, they shouldn't have that. Citibank, they shouldn't have that. But now that we own General Motors and Citibank, Congress needs 3 Gulfstreams, 3 G550s. What I think most Americans don't understand is that the people in this room are the people that create the jobs. It's not the people that have screwed it up, like General Motors or Citibank or anything like that. The average person in this country is employed by people like this, and they were all people that had dreams. America, what you need to do for just the remaining time that we have is listen to these people. I don't know about you, but I have never worked for a poor guy. I've never worked for somebody who made $20,000 a year. He's never offered me a job. Why? Because he doesn't have the money. I only work for people who have dreams and people who have some money where they say, hey, come on in, we're going to struggle together, and then we're going to grow rich together. We're going to, you could work with me, and then you'll have an idea, and then you can grow rich. I've never worked for a guy that didn't have money. These people in this room actually have some frustrations and some answers that you need to help them actually get answers for or movement on in Washington, because it ain't going to be the unions that save the country. It's going to be people like you and people like these people here in the studio. Back in a second. Welcome to our special on the death of small business in America. One thing that could kill small businesses faster than you could imagine is card check. Listen to the next story.
Bullmore Lanes has been a New York City landmark since 1938, famous for its glow-in-the-dark pins and celebrity clientele. It's one of the longest-running bowling alleys in the country. But this small business, like so many others, is being severely threatened by our government.
Probably the single greatest political threat to our company is card check.
Think card check. If you think it's good for the American worker, think again. If the government takes up card check, more unions will be created, which will put the squeeze on small businesses all across the country. And for small businesses that maintain a number of part-timers, union mandates on shifts, pay breaks, benefits, and other rules will force many small businesses just to close their doors.
It would be so enormously expensive and make it so difficult for us to run our business that I don't know that we would survive it. Surely, I'll tell you, if this had been passed 2 years or more ago, and we were a union shop, when we started facing the revenue declines that we've faced over the last year, we never could have moved quickly enough to deal with it and survive.
Bullmore is an American success story. 8 years ago, they had 40 employees. Today, they have operations in 4 states with over 400 employees. And while growing, they're able to offer benefits, including health care, to many of their full-time employees. There is no way they've been able to sustain this type of growth and hiring power if they faced pressure of a union or government-mandated health care.
Our government right now is proposing some of the most radical, fundamental changes in America that we've seen in a long, long time. And I think people need to be very careful when they're looking at these programs and not think about change as a goal. And if we let this president and this Congress run wild, they're going to take drastic measures and change fundamental things about our society, which I think they don't even understand the consequences of.
If the Obama administration is allowed to force health care, card check, and not to mention cap and trade down the throats of American entrepreneurs, you can kiss many small businesses and jobs goodbye forever.
Here's bowling alley CFO Brett Parker. He is with Bullmore Lanes right here in New York City. You would think that your business would be doing well right now because you're not going to the uber elite. You're going to the average, everyday schmo, are you not?
Well, we cater to a little bit more upscale than your normal bowling alley's audience, but where we've really been hurt.
I bowl.
Yeah, and you're pretty upscale. Those are pretty nice jeans.
Oh, aren't they, though? Yes, they're very nice. Okay.
No, but our business, system-wide, we derive, well, a year ago we did derive about 50% of our revenue from corporate and special events. And, you know, as we sort of came through AIG and bonuses and junkets and this whole deal, and we got the how dare you, shame on you, spend money on corporate entertainment, whether it's for employees or customers or whomever, and that market's just imploded. And
is there any way? I mean, I see Carmine's people sitting right behind you. Jeffrey, you're the CEO of Carmine's. You guys having a hard time with that? Are you seeing businesses not bringing people out to be entertained?
Only on the high end you'll see them, but they're still coming out. So you'll see the high-end corporate parties that might have been $100 a head have dropped down to $60, but people still have to eat, so we're in a lucky profession.
Right. As long as you're not a restaurant in Las Vegas or Orlando, you're fine. Healthcare for the Bullmore Lanes, about $1 million extra to provide healthcare. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, it's not. We're not just one property. It's 6 venues in 4 states. We're
but
a bit bigger than just here.
$1 million.
It turns out to be a whole lot of money, and the problem is that's all money that sort of goes for naught from my perspective, and it crushes our sustainable growth rate.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, you take that money, as far as I can see, you pour it in the drain because you're going to put it into a government-led program where, who knows how that's going to go. But it's all cash pulled out of our company that we can't then invest. I mean, in 12 years, we've gone from 12 employees, we were at a high of 450, now we're, call it 375. You can't have that sort of growth from a big business. That's a small business thing. And we can't do that if all of our money is going into paying for health care.
Who is, when you look at this board, and I want to get into it here in a second. I wrote over here, first of all, that I think, raise your hand if you agree with this, that our government now seems to be a government of just special interest. Doesn't seem to be a government of we the people, right? If you're in the right company or you're in the right special interest, if you're in the unions, you're in big finance, you're a giant corporation which has big unions, or you're in a favored group or industry, you'll be fine. When I was trying to look at the stimulus package, I thought, why wouldn't you go to the list of the most successful small businesses in America and then pour the money into those businesses? If you're going to do a stimulus, how about looking for those companies that are growing instead of pouring the money down the drain from businesses that have screwed everything up?
No, we don't want a handout, but GM, I think the number was $64 billion that was invested into them. You could have given 64,000 small businesses $1 million.
Can you imagine what that would have created? What would the bowling alley do with well, you'd pay extra for health care.
More bowling alleys.
You'd build more bowling alleys. Is there anything on this list that needs to be added? Because this is the pressure that I see in my business. I see taxes going up that are, crushing. Just the taxes alone are going to be crushing. Healthcare, crushing. Cap and trade, crushing. Slow down just in the business world. Just the way it just is naturally happening. You have regulation. Who you can hire. Who you can fire. I don't know about anybody else, but sometimes we try to hire very, very carefully because once you hire them, you ain't firing people. Is that a problem for anybody else? How about the litigation? The workforce alone. There's a lot of jobs that Americans just won't do. That pisses me off. Is anybody else try to hire people for good jobs and they're either not educated enough or they're lazy and they won't do it? And so you're sitting here saying, sometimes you'll have to hire 2 people because the person you hire just won't do it. Or you can't keep that person. You've got to see it in the restaurant business a lot.
We had to start our own ESL class programs.
You had a what?
We started our own ESL program, English as a Second Language, to just allow people to move up. And you just talk about, people coming in an entry-level position. Only certain people want that job. We pay good wages, pay more than minimum wage. And then to promote from within, we would start our own program and our own training programs inside. Our biggest thing that I think that's missing on the list that we see is credit. There's a lack of credit.
Oh, no, they say they've made all those loans to the banks.
Right. But so the banks have it. We run a successful business. We want to open another restaurant. We could create 225 jobs if we open another restaurant.
May I ask you a question? I want to go back and then we have to take a break. I want to go back to the question on you started an English as a second language program. Is there anybody here that doesn't want more legal immigrants in this country, because legal immigrants, people who work to get here and do it the right way, are a lot of times better than the Americans who have lived here for generations and just expect it all to be handed to them. Is there anybody here that disagrees with that statement? I mean, we're playing a game, America, and you're not hearing the truth on any of this stuff. If you're sick of the government destroying small businesses and changing, fundamentally transforming, sign up for my free email newsletter at glennbeck.com. Back for some more common sense in a minute. Welcome to our special on the death of small business in America. Small businesses are responsible for the bulk of jobs in this country. 70% of the jobs are created by small businesses, and yet you never, ever hear anyone talk about them on television. Oh, you might see them on a business network here and there, but you most likely, if you're working in America, work for a small business, and the small businesses, I could say, are dying. I think they're being killed. Here now are Wall Street Journal's senior economic writer, Stephen Moore. Dani Babb, she is a frequent guest of Your Questions, Your Money, a live call-in show on the Fox Business Network, and Fox News senior judicial analyst, Judge Andrew Napolitano. Stephen, let me start with you. You call something the triangle of evil. Right. What is it?
Well, you've got three major pieces of legislation coming down the pike that we've been talking about. Health care, the cap and trade bill, and this union card check issue, and the victims of those are all small businesses. And, you know, let's take health care for a minute. How are they going to fund that $1 trillion bill, Glenn? Payroll taxes on small businesses as high as 8% on every small business here. And then they're going to raise the income tax 5 percentage points on, quote, the rich. Now, the people who are rich, 70% of those people are small business owners and operators. Right. Now, you ask the question, why don't these members of Congress get it? Why doesn't Nancy Pelosi get it? Why doesn't Barack Obama get it? Because they've never run a business. They have no idea what it means to make a payroll. I mean, they are lawyers and community organizers. So that they really believe, folks, that members who run small businesses are like ATM machines. You just pluck dollars out of them.
Because that's the way they run their business. They do. Right. They just pluck it off out of the basement, off of a machine. Mike.
See, I don't believe a lot of people realize what small businesses do in order to make it. I mean, we have to mortgage our houses. We have to go to loans from family and friends. When money doesn't come in, we're the last people to get paid. So a lot of people never really appreciate what we do. Yeah, at the end of the year, we may make a little more money, but what about when we don't have the cash flow? We are by far the last people to get paid. It's our children, the last people to be taken care of. Everyone else gets taken care of first.
The number one question that my partner John Rutledge and I take on the weekend show, entrepreneurs calling in for 2 hours asking questions. Number one is, how do I get money in this economy, in this market? Why are the banks turning me down? Why is the Small Business Administration not backing loans that they said that they would back? And why, if they will, are banks unwilling to do the loan, even if they put up their personal collateral? That's the number one question.
By the way, I have an answer to that. When the federal government is borrowing $2 trillion, it's hard for small businesses to get credit.
But Stephen, explain something to me, because I had one of my financial advisors explain this to us. He's a guy who's been in global finance for a long time, and he said that here's where the economy was, and then we've been bailing out all of this money. We're about here now. This is where it should be, right? Let's say just housing, okay? So we've bailed out and filled this space, all of this space, with the cash that we've borrowed, okay? Right? Now, it still has all of this space to go, and that's if it just goes to historic norms. It's most likely going to go someplace down here. So we have to come up with all of that cash. He told me the reason why the banks don't loan to people is because, and I barely understood it, and you'd be the guy to explain it. The way the interest rate they're charging right now, they're making the money here, and they're trying to make it over a long period of time to cover all of this money. Does that make sense to you? Can you explain
who
it?
wants to lend money to businesses when there's no consumers out there who want to consume this stuff? I mean, my God, Glenn, that $800 billion stimulus bill in it, there was more money for the National Endowment for the Arts than there was for small businesses. I mean, this is craziness.
Well, you know, the government is run by people who have a couple of attitudes that probably no one in this room shares. One of them is government knows best. And the other is...
Does anybody believe that?
No.
Well, of course not. I mean,
They do in Washington.
They do in Washington. I mean, just there are so many historic and contemporary examples of that. The government runs Social Security, bankrupt. Medicare, bankrupt. Medicaid, bankrupt. The Post Office, bankrupt. Amtrak, bankrupt. Now, of course, they want to start running the healthcare system, and it'll be bankrupt, too.
Okay.
So that's the first mentality, that government knows best. The second mentality is, if we can do something to make you feel better in the short run, even if we take your freedom of choice away, the vast numbers of people will give us what we want more than anything else: re-election.
Okay, I'm going to take a break here, and you know, you brought up the post office. The post office had a problem with efficiency. People were standing in line too long. You know what their solution was? Take the clock off the wall. I'm not kidding you. That's true. How many of us would be in business if we did that to our consumers? The other thing, when we come back, Congress and the White House, I know, watch this program every day. These people are going to give the White House and Congress an earful what they need to hear. Next. All right. Welcome to our special on the death of small business in America. We have small business owners here, and I know the people in Washington watch the show. And now it's their turn. Since they won't meet with you, we thought we would just bring a little town hall meeting to them, and they can watch it like cowards in their office going, okay. So, your chance to talk, guys. Yes.
Well, Glenn, we started our business 19 years ago. And I feel as though since, well, first of all, we've had our ups and downs like many people in the room have had ups and downs over the years. But I feel that since January, when they increased the tax rate on S corporations, those people making over $250,000 a year, first of all, do you know how many people don't understand how an S corp works?
I barely do.
That just floors me. I mean, it's you know, people think that all that money the company makes, let's say we have a good year, we make $300,000 or $400,000, it goes into my pocket.
Right.
It doesn't go into my pocket. It goes to create jobs. It goes to increase expenditures in R&D and build a business.
Okay, your business, real quick again, is?
Analytical Instruments.
And real quick, I'll come back to you. Explain an S corp in 10 seconds.
Simple. 2 out of 3 of the people, those evil rich people who Barack Obama and the Democrats want to tax, 2 out of 3 are S corps like James. Those are the people who create the jobs.
Okay,
now, how are you going to get more jobs?
What is an S corp, real quick?
An S corp is basically just like a small business, basically,
Okay.
that pays its profits through the individual income tax.
An S corp has to pay the taxes, the owner, when the profits are realized. December 31st is your fiscal year end. You might not have collected that money, but on paper, your accountant says to you, you just made $300,000 this year. It's not in your checking account yet. Your customers haven't paid you, but that's what your profit is.
It's in your inventory. And
So you have to pay the tax effect, which is right now 35.6%, going to 39.6%.
No, going over to 50%.
I know, and now it's going to 50%.
Wait. People don't understand this. Again,
Those taxes have to get
America,
paid.
if you are working in if you're working in a company, what is the definition of a small business? How many employees?
Under 500.
Less than 250, less than 500 people. Most of us work for that. Then this is why you can't just say, hey, screw the evil rich person, because give me the taxes, run down the taxes, that what it's going to be, all of the additional.
Right now we're 35%.
35%.
Plus they want 5% for health care.
5%.
Plus they want 5% to repeal the Bush tax cuts.
5%.
Plus states like California, New York, Oregon, New Jersey have 10%.
10.9.
Ohio, another 10%. Add all that up, I think comes up to about 55%.
yeah, we
And
came
you
up with
match
54.
Payroll taxes, 6%. You match your employees' FICA.
That's right.
Not
And that's
forget
not going up to 8, is it not?
Yeah, and additionally.
Well, we paid $250,000 this year in payroll tax for 47 people.
Plus your workman's comp, liability insurance, and all the other stuff that we put on top of that we have to cover.
So who's got a message for Washington? Oh,
I'm going to jump in and explain
Yeah.
why this is happening. it's not just attitudinal. I saw you on the show a couple weeks ago. You were talking about basically oligarchy, the idea that powerful guys have hijacked our government. If you're GM, you can pick up the phone and you have a personal senator you can call and get a bailout. If you're one of the big Wall Street banks, you can. If your union is powerful enough, you have a senator or congressman you can call and get the bailout. Small businesses, you guys don't own your own personal senators and congressmen. That would have been a better
here's
investment.
The problem. We don't have lobbyists.
That's right.
Americans don't have lobbyists.
Right.
You know, lobbyists didn't happen, correct me if I'm wrong, Judge, you may know this. Lobbyists happened, they began in World War I under Woodrow Wilson.
Absolutely.
And it was one guy who said, you know what, because of World War I, some of my people need representation because they build the military. Well, after World War I is over, he planned on going home and he went, wait a minute, there's a lot of money to be made here. And that's when it happened. And it really kicked in during World War II.
We should think that members of Congress are there to hear our views and to vote in ways to enhance our freedom. They don't. They're only interested in special interest groups that have the numbers that they believe will guarantee their reelection.
And I'll bet there's not a single person here who can afford to hire a lobbyist.
Anybody have a lobbyist? No. Yeah. Anybody make
One
giant...
does.
You have a lobbyist?
Yeah, but just to fight Wall Street. So it's okay.
Okay, back in just a second. Tonight we're talking about the death of small business in America. Think about your first job. Your first job, most likely, you worked for a small business. Has a poor person ever given you a job? Yet, somehow or another, we're eating the rich, but not the uber rich. We're helping them get even richer. We're just helping eat the person that actually probably gave you your first job or somebody like that. This next two segments, I just want you guys to address two people. Anybody in Washington that has power, tell them what you want them to hear. And two, if anybody has anything to say to the American people that you think they don't get it, they don't understand, or please help us, this is what you can do. Who wants to start? Yes, ma'am.
I will. At the risk of being lynched in this crowd, I want to just say as a sidebar, absolutely the government should be supporting the National Endowment for the Arts, because do you understand that every dollar spent in the community that the National Endowment for the Arts spends is exponentially supports small business? The best thing that the governments can do
Do you know they're
is
funding
reinvest.
porn?
They're
funding porn at the National Endowment for the Arts.
And it's Shakespeare porn?
I'm all for operas and symphony
He
orchestras.
means actual boom chicka boom porn. We're not talking about Shakespeare porn. It's real porn.
Why do we need the government?
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this.
Absolutely need the government to pay for it.
We need the government to pay for that. Is the government paying for your business? Is the government paying for your business? Is the government paying for your business? Do you help out the communities that you serve in? Do you help out the communities that you serve in? How about you, Carmines? Do you help out the communities you serve in?
Preclude the government from supporting.
Where do they get, not the money, where do they get the power, Judge? Where do they get the power?
They claim they get the power in the Constitution. They have exceeded the Constitution and come up with ridiculous bases to justify their having the power.
Okay, let me go to Steve. Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, just if I could agree with the judge, who's one of my heroes. It's beyond the National Endowment for the Arts. Our government routinely, and you know this, Glenn, almost everything they do nowadays is unconstitutional. So this whole mess here is rooted in the fact that they kind of make up the rules as they're going along. They just think something is a good idea, so they say, let's do it. I mean, all these bailouts, they're constitutionally dubious at best. National Endowment of the Arts is an egregious example.
You know what? Look, you want the National Endowment for the Arts? Fine. But how about the, $700 million that we've just spent on wild horses? Our country is burning down to the ground. We need to make some priorities. I say Sesame Street isn't brought to you by the letter A. How about Sesame Street is brought to you by someone who actually has money to pay for Sesame Street? Yes, go ahead.
My question in Washington is, you can't solve this problem yourself. Let small business help solve this problem. Give us credit, give us a chance, and we can help the country get out of this mess. We don't have to wait for a stimulus package. We don't need cars and cash for clunkers. Let me have cash for cannolis. I'll go out and I'll open restaurants and create jobs.
Let me ask him, how much credit would it take to open a new restaurant for 225 jobs, you said?
For us,
How much would that take?
we would need a credit line maybe of $1 million, something
that's
simple as that.
Wait.
$1,000 a job.
Hang on just a second. How much would it take to open up a new restaurant?
Okay, when we finance a restaurant, we do our own money,
Yeah.
and we take credit. So you're asking what's going to cost me to open a restaurant, or how much I want to borrow?
How much do you want to borrow?
I want to borrow around $1 million.
Okay.
$4,000 a job, they could create a new job with. Compare that
Under the
with.
stimulus, it's like $400,000.
Yeah. Now let me ask you this: if you open a restaurant in Texas or in trying to think of another state that doesn't have taxes, Florida.
Yeah.
How much does it cost you to open a restaurant in Florida as opposed to New York City, where the regulation, the taxes, the everything?
We're fortunate we do well in New York City, but we're expanding. The only place we feel comfortable expanding, I know, but I'll tell you, and you'll laugh. The only place we feel comfortable expanding right now is we're opening Washington, D.C., because they're expanding government. That's where there's money to be spent.
Washington is
So that's where we're opening a restaurant.
It is. And can we remember, our elected officials, can we remember that 37% of workers, 42 million people in this nation, work for employers that employ 100 employees or less in this nation? That's a huge percentage. I have been working, my partner and I, with a 24-year retired Air Force veteran, served this nation for 24 years, willing to put her home on the line as collateral with equity to open a business, cut her business startup costs from $147,000 to $40,000. She's still being turned down. Opened a fruit stand to sell 3.2 million tomatoes over the next few years to make her dreams happen. And so we're helping her try to raise funds and so on, use every source of credit possible. Family and friends are reluctant to loan today. That used to be a very good source of income for small businesses, for startup money. People need to understand that small businesses are being drastically affected by all of these concerns, and a lot of people that want to put money into research and development, marketing, advertising, and so on are holding back to see what the heck is going to happen here. And until we know.
Okay, back in just a second. Tonight we're talking about the death of small business in America. Our last segment. We go to, let's go to Miles first. Miles.
No, I've come over here. I would like to own a small business, but sadly that isn't possible for me in the UK. I come to the land of opportunity, and I've just graduated from Oxford. I speak 3 languages. I feel that I'm qualified, but I think the government over here has forgotten that it's by neglecting small businesses, you're also neglecting a lot of graduates, and there are going to be a lot of unemployed but talented people out there.
Why can't you own a business in England?
Again, the government have loaned money to banks and it hasn't filtered down to small businesses.
Okay, Greg, you own a small business where?
In Paterson, New Jersey.
Okay.
It's it's a rundown town. It's on a rebound. But people have to realize throughout this whole country, without small business, we give jobs to people in the neighborhood. It's a very small business. Unfortunately, it's a lot smaller now than it was 18 months ago. But we employ people from the neighborhood who would otherwise be probably sitting on the corner doing nothing.
Maureen, can you go ahead.
I just thought she could probably agree too.
I'm in the South Bronx. We employ people right there in the neighborhood. The neighborhood is much better than it was 15 or 20 years ago because of small business growth in Hunts Point Market.
Okay. America, do I have time? Maureen, you wanted to address America?
I just want to say one thing to America.
Yeah. Quick.
Any administration can raise taxes, and the next administration can lower taxes. When it comes to health care, once this goes through, it'll never go back.
America, from New York, good night.